Okay, we'd like to introduce Boba Fett. Can you speak to us, Boba?
Certainly.
You didn't know who he was, you didn't know where he came from.
But he didn't get much screen time.
When he put the costume on and walked onto the set, absolute silence.
You said, whoa, who is that?
Despite his lack of screen time, next to no dialogue, he's everywhere.
The world was ready for this bounty hunter.
Under the Helmet, The Legacy of Boba Fett, now streaming only on Disney+.
Join me. Together, we can rule the galaxy far from the sun.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Hello there, Space Wizards, Plastic Spacemen, and Rebel Princesses. This is Todd Hoffman and Trent Hoffman, and you're listening to Big T and Little T, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 81. Today we're going to be talking about the one, the only Boba Fett, as we get prepared for the Book of Boba coming out very shortly. We are going to be looking at the Disney Plus show today, Under the Helmet, The Legacy of Boba Fett. But before we get to that, I just gotta, I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I know Trent and myself, we had a great time with our family and just hanging out, very chill. But as we entered into Thanksgiving weekend, we checked out 8-Bit Christmas. It's on HBO Max. Oh man, this movie was fantastic. Kind of hit all the right spots for me, all the right buttons, pun intended, I guess. But it's essentially about a father who is played by Neil Patrick Harris, telling his daughter about the time he tried to get a Nintendo for Christmas in roughly like 1988 to the late 80s. And it's really cool. It's super fun, super, it hits home because it's filmed in Chicago. And so it's got those kind of memories of going downtown for Christmas and looking at the lights and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is really cool. And what better way to try to get a Nintendo at Christmas time. But that was definitely not my first console. My first console was in a television, which I did get for one Christmas. My grandma actually bought it. Grandma and grandpa actually bought it for me. But I do remember that very much in for Christmas. But then when Nintendo kind of was on the scene, I just remember like, I got to get a Nintendo. That's all there is to it. And so I know my dad was like, well, you got the television, but this is Nintendo. And I just remember, just like, I have to have this. And I remember working really hard to get that. And I know my dad didn't understand, but like, I had to get a Nintendo. And it's been, magic ever since. I'm definitely, Nintendo has a sweet spot for me. I don't own all the consoles, and I do need to get a Switch, but I don't have a Switch because I need to get Metroid, but that's a whole nother story. But I don't have all the Nintendo consoles, but it really played a sweet spot in my heart for this movie. And then Trent and I do have the mini Super Nintendo thing, so we're playing some Super Mario World this weekend, and remembering how difficult Super Mario Brothers is, but we still have fun doing that. So yeah, let's just jump right into our main topic here, where we're talking about Boba Fett. Now, again, just a little context. Boba Fett's like my favorite person ever, and it's still kind of shocked, or still can't believe that I'm saying this, that like Boba Fett is back. And I just remember in Mandalorian season 2, like, I can't believe they showed him. And then they didn't show, after episode 1, they didn't show him for a while, and it's like, it's okay. And But then he came back, and then the Fennec came back, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And then they teased about, about that actually being a Book of Boba. And, at the end of Mandalorian season 2, which is also just kind of weird, but cool at the same time. I'm like, what's going on? But anyways, this was released on Disney Plus Day. And I finally got around to seeing this. And it's only 21 minutes. Wish it was longer. There's a lot of things that I knew. And probably the coolest thing about this featurette is that we got to see some footage that I never saw before, which is always exciting, So, but really it's just the official description for the thing before the documentary is that an all-new documentary special that celebrates the origins and legacy of Star Wars legend bounty hunter Boba Fett. Yeah, that's it right there. It's that in a nutshell. Some cool stuff that we find out about Boba. Obviously, one of the things is that Boba Fett was originally designed as like a super commando, super trooper, if you will, for the stormtroopers. And this is where you get the idea of the clones where they were to command the stormtroopers and be this kind of special elite trooper, really. And so that's where you get the prototype version, which we see Ben Burt kind of interview. And so saw a lot of stills of that. I know that's in the making of the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back book, but not seeing like a lot of footage of that. And so getting to see that on this documentary was super cool. But that's where you get the prototype white Boba Fett, because they wanted something that resembled a stormtrooper. It says in a documentary, like, hey, it was just too expensive to reproduce all these Boba Fetts. And so they still want to keep it. And then they just Joe Johnson kind of describes like he painted the base silver out of the white and then painted over it and just like heated it up and dinged it up and made it rough. And he became the bounty hunter Boba Fett. What strikes me the most about Boba Fett is definitely the look of his costume. I mean, that's where it just really resonates for me. Something about that T-visor and just the look and all the different gadgets he has. It's very practical and but purposeful, and so it's just a sweet jam there for me. And it's just Boba Fett's my jam. It's just there's no beating around the bush on that one. And like I just remember so many memories of playing in the sandbox, and Boba Fett would always climb out of the Sarlacc pit. He would have the wrist rockets and the flamethrowers, and he would blow up Greedo and Hammerhead and all that stuff in my sandcastles. And yeah, it was just like that was my jam back then, and just really resonated with me. And then a couple times, like, a toad would come in the sandbox, and that would be Jabba, and I don't know. It was just really, really cool. But one of the things that I knew about Boba Fett, obviously, was that he debuted at a parade, which is like, if you think about it now, like you think about our baby Grogu Funko and running in a parade, you're just like, oh, this is the best. We love seeing him. But the idea that something that you never seen before was at this parade is just something cool that you can never capture. And they show him signing autographs, and he's actually, there's like either it's got to be like a fan switch or some kind of wiring like sticking out his helmet. Most of those shots, I'm like, oh dude, you gotta tuck that in, bro. But yeah, it was like the first run of Boba Fett. It was a walk, but him and Darth Vader just at this parade. It's just a cool thing that you wouldn't really see. the mythos, the legacy of Boba Fett from a toy collecting perspective is kind of shown with Steve Sansweet, and he talks about the rocket firing Boba Fett that we all mailed away for, and then you get that little note. It's like, we just didn't want to kill children. So if you're not familiar, that you did proof of purchases with the regular Kenner action figures, and you get to mail away for Boba Fett. Yes, mail away was a thing back then before the internet. You slip that money, that $250, and sent it off with the proof of purchases, and you got your figure. It's just something cool about that process. But then you didn't get it, and then the holy grail of kind of Boba Fett is that there were some that they made prototypes, some painted, some non-painted, some have there's two different designs, and Steve kind of goes into it. There's like a J-hook and how the missile is formed and stuff like that of what they did for the backpack. And they're just very scarce. Of course, Steve's got two. I mean, they are 3-figure figures now. It's just one of the coolest things. What was that TV show? I want to say Dean Ambrose, but that's a wrestler. Jordan, is it Jordan Ambrose? I don't know. He's that toy collector on the East Coast, and he had a little show for a little bit. I think it was on the Travel Channel of all things. And he would just go around, and one of the first episodes is like he goes to some hobby comic book show, or no, comic book store outside of Cincinnati where Kenner was at, and this dude had one, and oh my gosh, it's just crazy. And the money, I think it was the New York Comic Con, that's where he sold it at, and he made bank on it. But yeah, it's one of those things that it'd be cool to have, but I'm not breaking the bank on it. But it's just one of those kind of another mythos things that lives with the legacy of Boba Fett. So they go through that. We get to see the prototype thing. We get to see Ben Burt fiddle with a horn for the sound of the Slave One. It's just I really enjoyed it's a little short, but I really did enjoy what they did with it. You got George talking about, how cool he is and all this stuff, but then again, he didn't know what to do with them, and he threw him a Sarlacc pit. George, sometimes, whatever. So, but yeah, it just kind of talks about how that built up. You got Filoni just laying it down thick as far as what makes Boba Fett important. I'm really excited, for the book of Boba Fett, see where this goes. And we are less than, well, as of this recording, we're 29 days away. 28, when you listen to this, it's gonna be good. It's like there's that old cartoon. It's kind of like almost Far Side. It's like what do you do? Counting down for Christmas? It's like, no, counting down to Star Wars. It's the only thing, we don't have the movie to count down for, but we're looking forward to this right after Christmas. Trent and I are super excited for it. It should be cool. So, a couple new things have happened since the trailer dropped. We have a couple directors that will be directing Book of Boba Fett. Robert Rodriguez is doing several episodes, but Bryce Howard has also been mentioned that she is doing one. And then we got officially from Star Wars, it's going to be 7 episodes from the Twitter. So that is super cool. It would be great if we could get some little meat on those episodes. So hopefully we get 40 minutes or something like that would be awesome. It's kind of cool in this new space. Again, either you had a half an hour slot or an hour slot, but now they, with streaming, you have the liberty to do whatever you want. And so, again, some of the Mando episodes were really short and some of them are long. So hopefully with Book of Boba, we get a good chunk that are long. I think 7's great. I know, we had 8 episodes with Mando, so kind of falls right in line with that. I'm interested to see how the Space Godfather is going to do this. What's his, is he selling spice? Is he selling weapons? What is he, selling used speeders? What's going on with Boba? I wanted to know, like, what he's taking over from Jabba's, or really Bib Fortuna's kind of empire, and see how that works. It should be really interesting how that really pans out. Are we going to get a little flashbacks? We've had 2 kind of TV spots. So one showed the like Slave One in a hangar. We got a big door. It could have been Jabba's door. I feel like that door gets bigger and bigger every time, but we do see a big door. And then this latest one, we have Boba in like a mask that resembles something that you would see from Bacta treatment. So I'm wondering if we do get an actual flashback of how he's rescued. I think we speculated too on with the trailer about that Tusken Raider shot. Is that a flashback of when does the Tusken Raiders rescue him? If you're an EU fan, I believe it's Tales from Jabba's Palace kind of says that Dengar rescues Boba and he gets out, and some of the Sarlacc acid like ate away at his armor and his face, but he's still alive, which would be kind of cool just seeing that play out. I mean, it kind of goes with Solo, where you have like you kind of see the things, and sometimes when you build those things up your head, when you just see them, it doesn't pan out. You might get a little bit of that if we see those flashbacks of like him getting out of the Sarlacc, but at the same time, it still would be kind of cool. So, kind of looking forward to that, seeing how that pans out. Again, it's kind of like, okay, if he's setting up this cartel or setting up this kind of crime syndicate, is he going against Crimson Dawn? Is there other people involved? Like, is he talking Tatooine, just small business, or is he getting expanded? These are all things I'm interested to see how it pans out. Is there any connection with Mandalorian? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. Does he run into other bounty hunters that we've seen before? There's all kinds of possibilities with this. And really, you could write it whatever way you want to write it. But really looking forward to see how that does kind of play out. But yeah. So anyways, go check out Legacy or Under the Helmet, Legacy of Boba Fett. It's got a good mix of, some of the old stuff that we've seen and haven't seen in a while, and just kind of bringing people up to speed of what makes this character dynamic. Again, every character, every favorite character, it resonates in a different way with people. I know one of the things that I just was enamored was his look, and I had an opportunity, I think it was in 2000, Jen and I went to a museum exhibit at the Field Museum. It's not I forget what it is, but it was an exhibit that was at the Smithsonian, and finally got to the field. And one of the first kind of things you see, they had like, when you walked in, they had like the big Star Destroyer model, and you're just like, oh my gosh. But the first costume you see is Boba Fett, and I kid you not, I probably stood there looking at that costume for quite a while. And Jen's like, you want to move on? I'm just like, give me a couple more minutes, because it wasn't just something I never thought I would see that close, was the actual screen used Boba Fett costume. And it was just one of those cool moments, that I just really is laser etched in my brain. Yeah. So I don't think we had cell phones back then. Probably not. So I know I had a disposable camera, and none of the pictures turned out. I think it was the lighting and the flash or whatever. They're all just were black when I got them, and I was like, no, because I took some really cool pictures. The only picture I have of that trip is like outside the museum. That's it. So I know it was there. I know what I saw, but I just don't have the photographs to back it up. But yeah, that was a very sad moment. But I got to see Boba Fett's costume up close. I just couldn't share it even back then. But anyways, I digress. So looking forward to Book of Boba Fett. Check out this documentary. It's pretty cool. And there you have it. All right. So thanks again for listening to the episode of Big T, Little T, a Star Wars podcast. You can find us on the Instagrams, Big T, Little T podcast, Twitter, BLILT podcast on Twitter, and then twitch.tv/Big T, Little T. Hey, if you want to tell us about what your thoughts are about Boba Fett, we're excited about, what's your predictions, drop us an email at bigtltpodcast@gmail.com. We can read it on the next upcoming episode and throw some swag in your face. We got some stickers we love to give to you. Also, if you want to rate us on Apple iTunes, that would be great. Well, it's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcast. Just give us a rating. Take a screenshot of that. Send it our way on the Big T, Little T podcast@gmail.com. And we will also read that review on the air and throw some swag in your face. Hey, we're so excited. We just celebrated year 2. Super excited to see where this goes for next year. Can't wait to bring you more content as we progress into 2022. It's crazy. All right. Now remember, truly wonderful the mind of the child is, and may the Force be with you always. Bye. See you later. Bye, 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 bye.
I am Boba Fett, left for dead on the sands of Tatooine. Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
The Book of Boba Fett, streaming December 29th on Disney+.
I am Boba Fett.
The Book of Boba Fett, streaming December 29th only on Disney+.
Wait, turn back, please. Hurry, we're trying to save Han from the bounty hunter. Well, at least you're still in one piece. What happened to me?
All right, test. 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. Here we go.